Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Zephron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So it's Thursday, which means Tier Thursday here in Against the Odds land, and we're doing something we don't do all the time today. We are looking at a tier deck from Vintage, but this deck is really sweet. It's like Against the Odds is suddenly tier in Vintage. So we are looking at Saheeli Oath, and the combo in this deck might look familiar from an Against the Odds deck we played not too long ago. This build recently took Chubby Rain to a 5-0 finish in a Vintage League on Magic Online. So big congrats to Chubby Rain on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break it all down, if you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So you know how this combo works if you watch Against the Odds. Sun Titan and Saheeli Rai go infinite. You get 2 Saheeli Rais in your graveyard or somewhere. Then you get a Sun Titan on the battlefield. It gets back a Saheeli Rai. You copy the Sun Titan, get back another Saheeli Rai. They legend rule each other. Copy Sun Titan, get back Saheeli Rai. The end result is you have this infinitely big board of Sun Titans. They all have haste except the original. You swing with a bunch of 6/6s. They kill your opponent on the spot. So we played this in Modern on Against the Odds, but this combo is suddenly part of the 4th most played deck in Vintage. It has climbed up into the top tier of the format, and the reason this combo works in Vintage is Oath of Druids. So Oath of Druids is kind of the third piece to this combo, and it is really crazy. So Oath of Druids, if you have never played with this card, as long as your opponent or a opponent has more creatures than you at the beginning of your upkeep, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you hit a creature. You put that creature into play, and that's what Oath of Druids does. So the deck, the only creature it plays is Sun Titan, which means if you can trigger Oath, you are guaranteed to hit one of your 2 Sun Titans, and you're going to mill a whole bunch of cards because the cards you reveal with Oath all go into your graveyard. So the idea is you play your Oath, you trigger your Oath, maybe with the help of Forbidden Orchard, giving your opponent a 1/1 Spirit token. That's what Forbidden Orchard is there for, to make sure your opponent has that creature to trigger the Oath. And then you trigger your Oath, you're going to mill 15, 20, 30 cards until you hit your Sun Titan. Hopefully, in all that milling, you mill 2 Saheeli Rais, and then you just go infinite with Sun Titan right on the spot and win the game. If it doesn't work the first time, you got one more Sun Titan. Next upkeep, trigger it again with the help of Forbidden Orchard. Do the same thing all over again, and hopefully this time you should definitely have enough Saheeli Rais in the graveyard to combo off with Sun Titan for the win. The rest of the deck has a couple of sweet Sun Titan targets. So Dak Faden, another 3-mana Planeswalker. So if you're not going infinite, you don't have all the Saheeli Rais you need, you can just get back a Dak Faden, do some filtering through your deck, steal your opponent's Mox or whatever artifact they have. You can also get back a Detention Sphere. You mill that as your oathing. Get it back with your Sun Titan, get rid of whatever's important on your opponent's side of the battlefield, and then on the second Sun Titan, off of the second Oath trigger, you should be able to win the game. Also, Jace the Mind Sculptor is kind of a backup win condition. Then we have all the power stuff, of course, all 5 Moxen, Black Lotus, Ancestral, Time Walk. These cards are kind of the foundation of Vintage. Pretty much, not all, but many decks in Vintage, most decks in Vintage, play almost all of these cards because they're just so powerful. It's not like Standard, where the cards need to be kind of part of your deck and do something along with the plan of your deck. When you have draw 3 for 1 mana, or take an extra turn for 2 mana, or add 3 mana for 0 mana, or Moxen, you just play them because they're so powerful, you need a reason not to play them. Unlike in Standard or Modern, where you need a reason to play a card, these cards are just so above the curve that unless your deck has a really specific reason not to put them in there, you put them in there. The deck also has a Soul Ring for additional mana. A lot of the restricted cards, Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise, and Gush, help the deck cycle through, find its O's, find its other important pieces. Brainstorm and Sensei's Divining Top do the same thing, making sure you find the right cards at the right time. A bunch of protection type spells, 4 Force of Wills, force through your combo, keep yourself alive. Pyroblast can counter your opponent's Force of Will, and then a Misstep to counter your opponent's Pyroblast, that's countering your Force of Will, and Flusterstorm can counter any instant or sorcery, also deals with Storm. And then a bunch of random stuff, a Repeal, a Ancient Grudge, Balance, and Beast Within. This is sort of the removal package of the deck. It's pretty scattered, but these give you outs to specific things in specific situations. And then as far as the mana base, Library of Alexandria, similar to the Power 9, if it can fit in your deck, you might as well do it, because drawing a card for free every turn is really powerful. Strip Mine, another card that's in a lot of vintage decks, a bunch of fetch lands, some dual lands, in the sideboard, Tormod's Crypt and Ravenous Trap deal with graveyards. You gotta be aware of Dredge if you're gonna play Vintage, because Vintage Dredge is pretty absurd, so you gotta have the sideboard cards for it. More counter spells, Flusterstorm, Pyroblast, and Mindbreak Trap. Flusterstorm and Mindbreak Trap, especially good against Storm decks, another big vintage archetype. Swords to Plowshares, Sudden Shock for removal. Ancient Grudge to deal with more artifacts and enchantments. Sabo's Web is a way to fight against lands that don't make mana. And Monastery Mentor is a backup win condition. Since you don't really have a go-wide creature strategy in your main deck, you might be able to bring this in and kind of get people as you cast your Moxen and Black Lotus and Ancestral Recalls, make a bunch of tokens and win that way. And that is Saheeli Oath for Vintage, and that's been our instant deck for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.